Joy Makamakka. Namaste to everybody. I have been traveling for the last 15-20 days, visiting different temples, especially the Bhairava temples in Uttarakhand, and I was not able to regularly update videos. So I checked my mail and I found that a lot of people have done Narasimha Ashtottara and Kavacha during this Narasimha Jayanti, and many had very nice experiences with it. So that is good and that's wonderful. There are also a lot of people who mailed that they have been doing the Kamakhya Stotram as I had mentioned in a previous video. That is also very good. So whenever you start a practice, remember this thing, that the first initial starting phase, you will always more or less you'll feel very good because you are starting something new. You have faith, you have dedication, you have certain amount of a positive enthusiasm towards it. So those things gathered together, and along with the inherent power of the stotra, the mantra that you're doing, creates a pleasant experience. Now, the real catch is how long are you able to sustain the practice? So, those people, now after this, say if you have started the Narasimha Ashtottara on that day, then after that, every day you keep doing at least once or thrice, and you carry on for months, you carry on for years. That is how it brings about a very strong, very real change in your life, in your consciousness, in the way you look at things, in the way you interact with the deity. As you keep practicing, you will understand more of the Devata whose sadhana you are doing. Even if you have read all the books and you might have seen 100 videos, and you might have, being somebody born in this culture, you will have a basic idea of the stories of the gods, which is wonderful, but it still doesn't give you a real, an actual experience of the deity. That comes only when you have been practicing for at least some period of time. And this applies generally for all devatas, by the way. So carry on the sadhana, carry on with a clean, a clear aim that this is the deity I like and this is the deity I want to approach. And whatever practice you pick up, there are no things such as simple sadhanas. Even the simplest sadhana can become very powerful if it is done consistently and it is done uh, for years without break. So that is the vital thing which separates somebody who succeeds from somebody who doesn't. It does not matter whether you have great experiences or less experiences, whether you can carry on the sadhana through whatever happens in life. That is the most important thing. Now, of course, there are going to be times when positive things will happen, and there may be times when you may face negative things in the natural flow of life, because that is what happens to everybody. That is what happened to avatars, that is what happened to great people, and that is what happens to anybody who is alive. Some days will be good, some days will be bad. But if you think like an upasaka, your aim is that whatever happens, every day you spend a specific amount of time doing sadhana of the deity you like. And if you carry on this way, if you carry on for a few years, you will on your own see how progress actually comes to you. And along with that, add the idea of visiting a kshetram of the devata. Whichever deity you are worshipping, you have to visit that deity's kshetram at least once a year or once in 6 months, and stay for 3 to 4 days close to that kshetram, in that kshetram, close to the temple, and do that same sadhana in that space. This is how you build a connection with the deity, because the deities are there in the astral and the universal realms, but they also manifest themselves in the temples that we have, in the kshetrams that we have, so that it's easier for people to connect to them. Because if they continuously stay in those higher realms, very few people have the capacity to actually take themselves up to that station where they can interact with the deity in its own domain. That is, in a way, you can say it is out of kindness of the gods that they manifest in specific uh, locations, geographical specific areas, spaces, kshetrams, as we call it. So I will deal with a few simple questions that came. I just checked and found them in my mail ID. So the first one was regarding Durga Kavacam. Does it require an initiation to read the Durga Kavach? No. So if you read the Durga Kavach, no initiation is required for it. But if you read the Chandi part, if you read the full text, the actual uh, text of the Chandi part, the Sanskrit text, not translations into Hindi or Bengali or any other language, then you will need an initiation. That is good to have an initiation because the text is very, very powerful. But if you are just doing the Kavacham, then it is fine to do it. If you have a faith on the deity, you can carry on doing the Durga Kavach, just the Kavacham. And as a sadhana, the 32 names of Ma Durga can be done by anybody. It requires no initiation at all. It is one of, as I have mentioned, it is one of the most powerful and effective sadhanas to do for anybody who is interested in, getting some blessings from the deity. The next question is with respect to Deha bandhana. How to do Deha bandhana? Okay, this is a question that keeps repeating multiple times. So Deha bandhana is basically a process by which you protect your body from any kind of harm. How is that harm going to come to you? More or less, suppose you have to say you are going into some remote location in some hill or some random place, and you have to sit and do sadhana there. It is going to be very difficult to do that unless it is going to be very difficult to do that unless you are you know how to protect yourself, and not just in the sense of kilana. Kilana is something that protects the area of the kshetra in which you are doing the sadhana, that space in which you are performing the ritual, whereas Dehabandhana is more specifically to protect your body from the influence of negative energies. Now, there are multiple methods of doing Dehabandhana. All of them are very effective. There are Sabar mantras for it, which require practices to activate them before you can use them. That takes time. But in my experience, in my opinion, if you carry on doing the Kavacham of a Devata properly for months and years specifically, okay, whatever deity it is, be it Bhairava Kavacham or Durga Kavacham or Narasimha Kavacham or any deity Kavacham properly, that includes within its sphere a certain kind of protection of your aura. So if a Kavacham is being done on a regular basis without fail every day, and that and it's carried on for years, then even if you are in a remote location where you do not know the kind of energies that may be present there, before you start anything, you do the Kavacham a few times. Maybe daily you do it thrice, but in that kind of a location, you do it say 21 times, and then you sit for your ritual. You will automatically have a certain degree of protection. Your Deha, your body, your aura will have a protection because of the power of the Kavacham. But again, it's entirely dependent on, have you been practicing the recitation of the Kavacha for a certain amount of time, minimum amount of time, could be months, could be years. Everything is subject to practice. There is nothing like a miraculous one mantra that will do all kinds of things. That's all happens in fairy tales. It doesn't happen in real life. Finally, it is that person who does practice consistently over long periods who is going to succeed in this, other than those who start something and then they drop it, and there is lack of consistency and discipline. That said, initial stages, those who are starting sadhana, it is not recommended for them to randomly go into unknown, remote, unnatural settings and practice their sadhana, not until you have at least attained a certain degree of proficiency, or if you have a guru, then you take the guru's permission. So because you don't know what kind of energies might be present in that area. So like that. So that is why it is important not to experiment too much. Do the sadhana in your home, which is fine, which is more or less, the home is a protected space. If you're doing it in a temple, that is also fine, like that. So those which are known areas, which are known not to have any kind of negative influence in that particular space. So instead of looking for specific methods of doing Deha bandhana, it is better, in my opinion, to focus on activating the Kavacham. And activating means you have to ideally keep doing it consistently for a few months. Sometimes you may do more of it, 20, 21 times or something like that. And do more means you may even think of doing, say, on a period of, if you think there is a specific kind of threat, you can think of doing, say, 1000 recitations of the Kavacham in a period of 30 days or 40 days, something like that. So it creates a more stronger protective aura around the individual. Okay, so that itself, if you have that kind of an aura, and then for whatever reason you land up in a space where you are unsure of the energies, then you do not need to do any specific Deha bandhana. That Kavacham itself is going to protect you if you have done it properly. This is in my opinion, the most essential thing that I have experienced and seen on my own in multiple cases. Of course, there are specific mantras and paddhatis of Deha bandhan, but again, to activate them, it will still require the same amount of time. It will require an amount of certain degree of concentration, practice, this, that, etc. Half the time you'll find in texts or people telling that, this is just one method or a mantra, and you do that and everything is going to happen magically, but it doesn't work that way. It is subject entirely to how much practice, effort, concentration you are giving into it, how much time you are spending with it. Okay. There is another question on vatuka bhairava sadhana and whether a grihastha can do vatuka bhairava upasana. Of course, a grihastha can do vatuka bhairava upasana. In fact, I know a lot of grihasthas who do vatuka bhairava upasana, and there are many. There's a set of bhairava upasaks who do specific sadhanas of different forms of bhairava, and on specific tithis, Vishesh Sankalpa is taken by these upasaks for the uplift of dharma, for protection of dharma, and bhairava sadhanas are done. So it is perfectly alright to worship Vatuka Bhairava at home, and in fact I would say that Vatuka Bhairava Upasana is one of the best things in this age. In my opinion, is one of the fastest working devatas. If one gels with Bhairava as a whole, Vatuka Upasana is one of the best stepping stones into it. He is extremely fast. But being a child form, like all other child deities, there are certain other, it's not entirely about doing the mantra japa, etc., which is there, of course. But apart from that, there has to be an emotional connection to the devata from the upasaka's point of view. Then it works very well. And if you carry on Vatuka Upasana for a few years consistently, Vatuka himself can act as a guru to the upasak. And not only as a guru, but open paths for higher levels of Tantra Sadhana. Because nobody knows the marg of Tantra Sadhana better than Bhairava. It is as if Bhairava himself is a guru. He is the root energy. He is the one who knows all the tantras. He is the one who knows such tantras which are not even revealed to human race. He is that fantastic. Okay, and Vatuka is the same Bhairava in the form of a child who removes obstacles from a person's life. That is his tremendous specialty. So instead of worshipping a whole lot of other beings in order to calm them down, one Vatuka Upasana properly done is good enough to, that is why it's called the Apad Uddharaka. Apad Uddharaka means one who saves you from troubles. He is the one who fixes things whenever there is a trouble. If Vatuka is kind on an Upasaka, he very quickly he will bring a resolution to the problem and some way out. That is his exceptional specialty. And Vatuka Upasana is perfectly fine to do by Grihasthas. In fact, whole lot of Grihasthas do Vatuka Upasana these days. Over the last 20 years, I have seen that there are two deities whose Upasana has increased tremendously across India. It's like an independent cult of their own. One is Vatuka Bhairava and the other is Ma Bagalamki. And for very good reasons, these two have become very popular. So Vatuka Upasana is absolutely doable. I mean, uh, if somebody is doing the Vatuka Mantra Sadhana, please carry on. Please ensure that you offer some bhog or naivedyam to Vatuka every day when you are doing the sadhana. Use a Rudrakshamala and the normal rules of Mantra Japa apply. Carry on doing it, carry on without break. Uh, and if you know how to do Anushtanam, later on you can go into that. Visit temples of Vatuka Bhairava, visit Kashi, visit Ujjain. These have the best Vatuka Bhairava temples in India. Uh, it's wonderful to worship Vatuka, and once you experience the effects of Vatuka Bhairava, provided one gels with Bhairava Upasana overall, okay, if you experience the grace of Vatuka Bhairava, it's very difficult to not continue the Upasana. It's one of the fastest working forms of among any deities, among any devata. And that is why I mentioned the Durga Kavacam. So carry on sadhana, and if there's anything else related to Bhairava Upasanas, I might do some more. Achha, one more thing just came to mind because I was visiting the temples. If somebody is into Bhairava Upasanas regularly, Vatuka Upasana or the others, it is also a good practice to just take the name of all the Ashta Bhairavas. So there are 8 Bhairavas: Asitanga Bhairava, Ruru, Chanda, Krodha, Unmatta, Kapala, Bhishana, Samhara. All the 8 Bhairavas are there. Along with them, there are the 8 Matrikas. So at a medieval or ancient time, all the 8 used to be worshipped. Even today, the 8 are worshipped in certain kramas of certain Devata Upasanas. But leaving all the technicalities aside, if you are worshipping Bhairava in general, is one of your primary deities, then it is very good to take the names of the 8 Bhairavas whenever you sit for sadhana. Even if you take it once, that is okay, but always take it. So over time it becomes a practice. And as your Bhairava Upasana becomes deeper, you will feel a connection to these 8 Bhairavas. And one among them, or 2 among them, or a few among them will also interact with you, and not only interact with you, protect you, guide you. Each of them has their own domains and own areas and own expertise. For example, the blessings of Ruru Bhairava is said to bring about the Guru Tattva in an individual. It helps an individual when there are certain kinds of financial crisis, or if there is some amount of knowledge that has to come in. So like that. Whereas a worship of Samhara Bhairava is very good for removing spirits and negative things from an area. So like that, each of the Ashta Bhairavas have their own domains. Whereas Vatuka is a form who contains the abilities of almost all Bhairavas inside. Yes, every form of Bhairava's energy is included inside Vatuka. And if we read the kramas and the mantras, the nyasas, the details of more engaged Upasana Vatuka, which is by the way not needed on step 1 on day 1. If you are starting Bhairava Upasana, if you have Bhairava Mantra, if you are doing Bhairava Mantra, first thing is carry on japa, carry on japa, carry on japa. Then later on all the other parts will automatically get added. It will come to your mind that okay, now I have to start, do the nyasa also, I have to do this, that, etc. It will come in a smooth flow. There will be no conflict at all. So Vatuka is a form who contains the powers of all these forms inside him. He was specifically created. In some sampradayas, the idea is believed that he is like the child of Ma Kali, child of the Mahavidyas. So when Vatuka becomes happy, he actually shows you how to do sadhana of these great Mahavidyas, whether it's Kali, Tara, or even Durga, Chandi, etc., all these forms. He is, in a way, the form who clears the path. He is the Apadudharaka Vatuka Bhairava. Apad means troubles. One who will save you from troubles. He will clear the material plane to a certain degree around you, so that it's easier for you to go deeper. Now, one thing to understand, that all deities who cleared the material space, there is a certain limitation within which they will function, and that limitation is based on your destiny. Again, referring to the video I did on the grahas, if there are certain karmas which cannot be resolved due to past life, whatever has been done, and they reflect in the horoscopes, so those things no deity is going to remove for you. That you will have to undergo and face. But if you make it a habit to keep doing sadhana, eventually means, at least as I say, 12 years or more, because all good things take time. There is all the efforts, all the sadhana that one does gets accumulated, and in time nature gives you the results of that. That is a rule that is never ever violated, never ever violated. So sadhana is good, and if you do it in the way it is to be done, yes, you will eventually see how beneficial it becomes, and why it is called sanatana, eternal. The word eternal means the methods, the practices, the systems that used to happen at an earlier time, which worked, the deities, the Ganges, the Grahas, they still work today, and they will still work in future. That is the eternality that it speaks of. That is why it is a continuum, something that has been going on, goes on now, and will go on. With that, I end my video here. Jai Bhagavan.